Hello everyone, welcome back to UGC Net English classes. In the previous class we talked about the modern English period. Today we are going to discuss an old English poem titled Beowulf. This poem, the Beowulf, appeared around 700 AD. But there are still confusions regarding regarding fixing the matter of the composition of the poem. So different, critics gave different ideas about the time regarding the composition. So as per the novel codex of Beowulf manuscript, it is between 975 and 1025 AD. So as per the novel codex or the novel codex manuscript is also called the Beowulf manuscript. So we know that the novel codex, as we were discussing the Old English period, we talked about the four main manuscripts of Old English. There were the Cadman manuscript, the Beowulf manuscript, the Berkeley manuscript, and the Exeter book. So Beowulf manuscript can also be called Novel Codex. So as per the Novel Codex manuscript, the poem was composed between 975 and 1025 AD. Basically, Beowulf is an Old English epic poem in the tradition of Germanic heroic legend. So written in the tradition of heroic legend. So epic means written about heroes. So we know written in the style of Germanic legend. And it tells the story of the warrior, the great warrior, Beowulf. And it is narrated in the third person omniscient point of view. So it is basically narrated in the third person omniscient point of view. Though it is an epic, it has some elegiac elements also. So it is, we can also say it is more than an epic, it is more an elegiac poem, mourning the death of so many people. Especially the poem begins and ends with death. So we know elegy is a poem written to mourn the death of someone. So this poem also mourns the death of different people, especially Beowulf. So it is also an epic and also an elegy, we can say. And the poem begins in medias res. Medias res means in the middle of things. In the middle of things means something has already happened. Some event or some, tragedy or something has already happened. So the poem begins at that particular point. We have already mentioned that the poem has elegiac mood, and the poem begins and ends with funerals, begins and ends with deaths. So in the beginning of the poem, Beowulf, we can see the death of Skjaldskefi, who was a Danish king, a king of Denmark, especially the Scandinavian area. We know Scandinavia. Scandinavia means the regions, especially Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. So Skjaldskefi was the king of Dane people. Danish king. He was the king of Denmark. And we see his death that happens in the beginning of the poem. And when the poem Beowulf ends, we can see the death of Beowulf himself. The hero. Beowulf dies towards the end of the poem. Now let's see how the poem begins. You should better, when we learn a poem, better just to try to understand the beginning lines and at least ending lines. So let's see how the beginning of the poem is through a translation by the famous poet Shamazini. So many people have translated, tried to translate the Old English poem into modern English language. Now, one of those was our poet Seamus Heaney. So, as per the version given by Seamus Heaney, the poem begins like this. So, the spear Danes in days gone by, and the kings who ruled them had courage and greatness. We have heard of those princes' heroic campaigns. So let's see once more. So, the spear Danes in days gone by, and the kings who ruled them had courage and greatness. We had heard of those princes' heroic campaigns. So you see the first word, so that word itself shows that something has already happened. That means the poem begins in medias res. That means in the middle of things. So something has happened. Now let's analyze the main ideas about the poem. The poem is set in Scandinavia. As we have already mentioned, the poem is set basically in Denmark, around Denmark, and also in Sweden. So Scandinavia basically means Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. But Norway is not mentioned here, only Denmark and Sweden. We need to keep in mind. So it is set in Scandinavia. Beowulf is from Sweden. So someone is from Denmark. Let's see who is from Denmark. So basically set in Scandinavia in the 6th century. That means around 500 AD. So remember 6th century, 500 AD around. So the characters are Danes or Swedish people, not English characters. So we have no English characters. As we said, Beowulf is a hero from Geatlands. Geats. That means Sweden. He's a Geatish hero, a Swedish person, because the work is set in Scandinavia. So Beowulf hails from Sweden. He was the nephew of King Hygelac. The Swedish king Hygelac. And Beowulf had two swords. You should remember Beowulf had two swords. One sword was named Hrunting, and this sword was presented to Beowulf by Unferth. Unferth, a warrior, had given Beowulf a sword named Hunting, and another sword of Beowulf was named Nagling. Nagling was given to Beowulf by Hrothgar. And Beowulf had a childhood friend whose name was Brecka. Brecka was Beowulf's childhood friend. And we have another important character, Wiglaf. Wiglaf was a co-fighter with the dragon. Beowulf fights with a dragon, and Wiglaf accompanied him to fight with the dragon. And this work, Beowulf, was mostly written in the West Saxon dialect of Old English. We know that Old English had basically four main dialects, which were the Northumbrian, Mercian, West Saxon, and Kentish. So, Beowulf was written in the West Saxon dialect of Old English. And we had already mentioned the manuscript name. That was the novel codex, or also called Beowulf manuscript. And here in this poem, mainly 3 battles happen. 3 battles. Remember, 3 battles. And the poem in total has around 3,182 lines. 3,182 lines, mostly alliterative lines. Alliteration means repetition of initial consonant sounds. And we mentioned the date of composition around 700 AD. Or also we can say exactly between 975 or 1025 AD. We don't know who has really written the poem Beowulf. So Beowulf's author, we can call the author as a Beowulf poet. Beowulf poet. Because the author is anonymous. We don't know his name. Now let's analyze the capsule summary of the poem. As I said, basically 3 battles happen in the poem. So the first one, Beowulf comes to help Hrothgar. Hrothgar was the king of the Danes. That means Denmark. So now we know who is from Denmark. Beowulf is from Sweden. And Hrothgar from the nearby country Denmark. Why Beowulf comes from Sweden to Denmark? Because Hrothgar's palace, especially his mead hall. Mead hall means a feasting hall. And Heorot has been under attack by the monster Grendel. So a monster named Grendel attacked whose place? King Hrothgar's mead hall that was in Heorot. Grendel is a fatherless creature. So Grendel is a fatherless creature. The creature, Grendel's family gives importance to matriarchy. Mother rules the kingdom of the monster's kingdom. Beowulf kills this monster with his bare hands. So after a long fight with this monster, he kills Grendel and tears his arm and displays it to the public. So remember Beowulf, how he kills. He kills with the bare hands, not with swords, but bare hands. So the first battle is over. Now the second battle. Now Grendel is dead. So his mother is enraged and she wants to take revenge on Beowulf. So Grendel's mother attacks the hall. So the mead hall is next attacked by Grendel's mother. So as we said, Beowulf had 2 swords. So one was given by Anfat, a warrior who had earlier challenged Beowulf. So, and for that I presented Beowulf with his sword named Hunting. So, Hunting was the sword. But this sword fails to kill Grendel's mother. So, when Beowulf chased this, monster, Grendel's mother into her living area, her place, dwelling area, he could see another sword hanging on the wall of the monster. So he understood that with this sword, he could really kill the monster. Because Beowulf's sword, hunting, that couldn't kill the monster. So this sword, Beowulf spots another sword hanging on the wall and apparently made for giants, and cuts her head off with it. So Beowulf cuts the head of Grendel's mother and kills her. And after that, Beowulf was rewarded with, from the king, and he goes back to Geatland and becomes king of the Geats. Geats means Sweden. Now the last fight. The fight in which Beowulf is wounded and killed. So the third fight. So one day, 50 years after Beowulf's battle with Grendel's mother. So Grendel's mother was killed 50 years before, 50 years ago. Now Beowulf is an old man, an old king. And he rules Sweden, Geatland. So he's a slave, a person, a man from his, land, Sweden, steals a golden cup from the lair of a dragon at Yananas. Lair means a place where the dragon stays. That means a burrow or a den. So from a dragon's burrow, a slave steals the treasures that the dragon had been keeping for years. So the place you remember, Yananas, the dragon was at Yananas, his place. So the dragon wants to take revenge at the man, so he disturbs Beowulf's country and his people. So Beowulf wants to defeat the dragon. So he goes to defeat the dragon, but is mortally wounded in the battle by its venom, the dragon's venom, because the dragon beats Beowulf. So Beowulf's body starts to get the venom. So after his death, after Beowulf's death, from the battle, from this the last battle with the dragon, Beowulf kills the dragon, but Beowulf is also wounded. So after Beowulf's death, his attendants cremate his body and erect a tower on a highland in his memory. So Beowulf was such a heroic king. So the people lament his death because they know that their country from there onwards, after the death of Beowulf, their country would be in danger because Beowulf was a brave warrior and he proved himself as a protector. So the people lament that they would have no another king who ruled like Beowulf. So as we said, the poem begins and ends with a death. So in the beginning of the poem, we saw the death of Skell the Skeffing, the Danish king, and when the poem ends, we see the death of Beowulf, the king of Sweden. And we said the poem was really translated into modern English because the poem was written in Old English language, especially the West Saxon dialect. So many people, especially prominent poets, have tried to translate the poem into modern English, and one of those was, of course, our famous poet Seamus Heaney. In 1999, Seamus Heaney translated into modern English. J.R.R. Tolkien had written an essay on the translations of Beowulf. So his essay, J.R.R. Tolkien's essay, was titled On Translating Beowulf. So remember who has written the essay? On Translating Beowulf, written by J.R.R. Tolkien. And also remember, you may get a question like, who was the famous Irish poet who in 1999 tried to translate, or we can say, who translated the Beowulf poem into English? So the answer is Seamus Heaney, the famous Irish poet. Beowulf, we can say, Beowulf, the warrior, the king, Beowulf, calls himself as Father Almighty. That means Beowulf is so proud of himself, and he thinks that he is more powerful, or he is as powerful as God himself. So Beowulf calls himself as Father Almighty. But the poem proves us, the other way round, because we can see at the end of the poem, Beowulf dies. So we know ultimately it is God himself who rules over everyone. That is the ultimate message of the poem. God is the one who rules over everyone. But Beowulf believed that he was the Father Almighty. Beowulf calls himself as, because he was a proud warrior and a proud king. But the poem has the ultimate message in a different way. So now let's analyze the main themes of the work. Violence causes more violence. The importance of establishing identity. Greed for treasure is a kind of spiritual death. Tension between the heroic god and the other value systems. The difference between a good warrior and a good king. So these are the main themes of the work. Once more, of course, the theme, ultimate message is God is the ultimate power who rules over the whole universe. That is the main theme of the work. And besides this, we have the themes like violence causes more violence, the importance of establishing identity, greed for treasure is a kind of spiritual death, tension between the heroic god and the other value systems, the difference between a good warrior and a good king. So that's all for today. In the next class, we will discuss the biography of the famous Middle English poet Geoffrey Chaucer.